Okay, as Pee Wee Herman would say. Now, I want to go over capacitors. If you're going to build a regenerative set, you really want to use regular old-fashioned capacitors. Now, I know there's guys out there, you want to use varactors, it's cheaper, they're easier to find, they drift, okay? They drift a lot. Now, there's two main kinds of capacitors overall that you'll find on eBay, eDumpster. These guys, they come for crystal radio sets, one transistor kits. This is the 360 picofarad. Plenty of tuning, and you use this for the main tuning. On these type capacitors, the part that moves is actually the ground. Okay, the stator that doesn't move, okay, that's isolated from ground with pieces of Bakelite. Okay, you'd think it would be the other way around, but it's good to, you can see the ball bearings in there, it's grounded. Okay, and what that helps out a lot is when you put it in a metal case, because this is grounded, if you put your hand near, say, this screw, see this set screw? If you mount this on a wooden board, that screw, when you put your hand near that screw, it'll change the frequency of the radio. Okay, but if you use a metal chassis, I told you in last videos I show you, this is just an L bent frame. It's Lowe's aluminum. You can bend it between two boards, you know, and you can see the capacitors I use. I showed you that in things. Now, these have ball bearings. They're very smooth. You'd use one of these for the main tuning, and then you'd use one of these next to it with some type of capacitor in series with it, maybe a 15 picofarad. And what that'll be is just the band spread. Once you get close to the station, then you can fine tune it in, like if you're doing sideband or CW. Now on these are very unique. And these you'll see APC, these are Hammarlund. These vanes are brass, they're plated brass. You can see you can solder to them, okay? These are aluminum plates, and aluminum plates change with temperature. All your good capacitors, you want real stability, something like this. This is a brass unit, and this one is, if you're building like a VFO and you don't want it to drift, or in the case of a regenerative radio, you don't want it to drift. So this one here would be great for a large unit that you build, if you build it in a big scale, and this would be good for a band spread. All right, and with these, on this one in particular, when you mount it, that's the movable unit, and it's grounded. Okay, now let me show you these. I mentioned Hammarlunds. You'll find these on eBay. They come in a metal foil package. They've been packed, sometimes some of them are packed in the 60s, and they're in warehouses. And inside the aluminum foil package, there's usually nitrogen in there, and it keeps these nice for many years, okay? Now, you see these screws here? Let's just say they're 440s. They're bolts. When you mount this thing, it's not grounded. You can make this movable section ground or hot, whatever way you want to call it, okay? And you still want to make this terminal here, am I in the frame? This terminal here goes up to that. You want to make sure that goes to ground on your circuit. And just so when you mount it and you touch this and you got your radio grounded, your radio won't drift or make noises. You're regenerative, okay? But these are the ones you want. Now, you'll see them come in several sizes. Like say this is 150 picofarad and this is 100. And I told you, you can put a smaller cap in series with it and bring it down. The whole idea is you want to get a capacitor in there, and you can't find the exact values that they're called for. And that's when I told you it's called padding, and I'm famous for that. And I got in fights with people over that. It won't be linear. They're all full of shit. Okay? I get very upset about this. Now, this unit looks just like those, but these plates are aluminum. Okay? And it's press fitted. whenever you see anywhere they've soldered one of the plates, it's going to be a brass plate that's plated maybe with tin. And what these do, these drift less. As temperature warms up or cools down, there's less shifting of the plates, and you'll get less drift. Now, when you build a regenerative and you use good parts, you can put that thing on a sideband sideband signal, tune it in, listen to the guys talk, shut the power off to it, walk away, come back an hour later, flip the power back on, and you'll hear it drift right in again. It'll be right back to where you left off. Okay? And this one does work that well. And I used, like I said, here's a cap in series with this to make this smaller, because this one here is this one here controls the regeneration. It's a throttle. They call it a throttle capacitor in some circuits. Okay, and this one here is over on the antenna circuit to tune the antenna in. And the reason you want to do that is because you get the most signal if you can really tune the set in. And instead of using a band spread, I use one of these. The experts don't like to call them veneers. Okay, but if you look them up to buy one, it's called a veneer. And this turns more turns than this moves. So it's I think this one's 6-to-1, something like that. This makes it very easy to tune in a sideband station. CW is a lot more sloppier. But in other words, you want to get the guy's voice just right, you can do it from here. Okay? And in some cases, if you can't get one of these, you put in one of these type capacitors, and then in parallel, something like this as a fine tuning. But just wanted to show you. And I had people ask me, where do you get them? I looked around. eBay. That's all we're left with, pal. And then there's surplus houses. Every once in a while, you'll see these suckers, $3 each. And I don't buy just one. I buy 5 at a time. And you notice it's got wires on it. So this came out of a project. So I'm constantly have things to choose from. All right. Now, if you're going into the hobby, you're going to have sticker shock. You know. And here's a capacitor you could use also. This is a little miniature capacitor tuning cap out of a FM radio. All right. You save them. You know, I used to be a real good garbage digger. You know, a garbage picker. And over the years, I collect this stuff. This doesn't happen overnight. When you get in the hobby, you build your crystal radio sets. You know, you start off with bells and buzzers when you were a kid. You may hook a speaker up to a radio just so you have an external speaker. Maybe you put a headphone jack on the radio. That's how you start. You start very small, and after a while you get the confidence. And then you start seeing circuits, and they get more and more complicated, and you learn how to troubleshoot them. And that's what I did. And then at some point I went to school, and I continued to build the stuff. See, a lot of the guys that went to tech school, once they finished tech school, they got a job. They never read anymore. They were like, I know what I need to know. It's good enough. And then what happens is, the boss is sitting over on the side. He's listening to this. And it's even worse now. They look for a candidate where they can use you. And you're a company man, work you really hard, and you're not going to get raises. They already have someone else picked to take your place. Okay, that's how it is. Years ago, you'd become a guy where the boss would rely on you, but then the boss would get promoted and not take you with him, or he would move to another state and you were screwed. And a place would close down. You got to get a job. You got to start at the bottom. You got to work your way up to the top. But I went into electronics full time. And besides where I worked, I actually built stuff at home. And in a lot of cases, even after I quit the one company, whenever they closed the department down, the boss would come over and say, pack that all up and take it down to John. So the first 2 years after I quit, I was getting boxes and boxes of electronic parts that I immediately took up to ham flea markets and sold it for like 10 cents on the dollar. And people were wigging out how good this stuff was. It was brand freaking new. And then a lot of surplus now is real old junk, okay? And eBay is the only place really to find this stuff. But if you see the letter in the picture, APC, And this is a Hammarlund. And Hammarlund made radios, but they also made a lot of really good capacitors. Here, there's the name. Let me get it in frame. You might be able to read it. It says Hammarlund. I thought this was a German made. It's a German guy, but he actually made the radios in the United States. But I wanted to show you, this is the most confusing parts, the capacitors. What do I need? But I told you about padding. Say you had 2 of these. All right, you take one of these. This is 360 picofarads, but you only need 100 for a throttle. So you stick 100 in series with this. All right, so this becomes 0 to 100. You put a 50 in series with this, 0 to 50. And I know some guy's going to do the exact math. Oh, it's not exactly 50 picofarads or 100. Blah, 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 blah. That's what I ran up against when I would be up on the groups. From experience, I would tell them how I did it, how to get it done. All right, and you got these guys that are nitpickers. Okay, you know, you say to yourself, wait, to everybody, yeah, you take a 360 picofarad tuning cap, and if you need a 50, you just put a 50 in series with this. It won't be linear, right? They shoot from the hip with all this bullshit, and it sounds good. When a guy is asking the question, he gets the bullshit answer, it won't be linear. He gets so confused. Okay, I always say, try it. Give it a try. That's how I found out. And then later on, I'm like, noticing other people like Charles Kitchen. Go look at some of his pictures, and you'll see really big capacitors like this. Okay, he's got a bunch of these, and then he puts a little tiny cap in series with it, and now he can use it for the throttle. And he did do that. The thing's this big, and he used it for one of his throttle caps on one of his pictures, on one of his final radios. And I know why he went incognito. I believe he's still alive. I tried to contact him. There's so many people that look up kitchen stuff. They collect the parts. They I got that, I'm going to build. And they never build it. Okay, but what I show you here is for the person that actually is building, and you pick one of these up for the first time, and then, well, how do you mount it? You know, it's two screws or 2 bolts, and I believe they're might be 440, 632, but in other words, you got to have them, and they can't be too long either. It's fun stuff. And what I do is when I put this unit away, I put the screws back on it, so the next time I use it for something, they're already there. Okay, but these come in a plastic foil bag, a paper. It looks like paper bag on the outside. It's foil behind it, and it's been heat sealed. And a lot of places shoot nitrogen into it, and that makes it stay shiny for 75 years. And I actually did that job for Bendix. The company I worked for, Bendix Avionics, was putting a lot of stuff in stock, and they bring the stuff in bins. And then the girl up in the office, she typed those little foil bags. She typed, they're flat and no air in them, and she typed all the part numbers on them the hard way, one at a time. There were no computers back in those days. She'd bring them out, and then you would open these little foil bags open. They'd cut your fingers too, man. They're nasty. You put the part down in there, and it was paper bag on the outside, foil, and then the foil was lined with a plastic liner. So you'd run it through a roller. There was 2 rollers that were heated, and they'd seal it. That's how we did the Bendix stuff. There was no nitrogen involved. But I'll see something on eBay like this, and this is for a transmitter, and I don't know how many picofarads this is, but in other words, this is brass. And brass, when it heats up and cools, there's very little capacitance change. Okay, and that's what you want building a VFO or regenerative. You want good quality capacitors there. And varactor diodes do work, but they drift. Go read up on that. Go read up on varactor diodes. Yeah, they got their place, but some of them are junk. I think that's it. All right, that's it.